Presented by Hyundai. Marcellus Wiley here, not feeling my best. I know.
Why not,
I melted in today.
I like color on you, Marcellus.
You like color on me?
I like color on you.
Well, I was born with color. And we got my man, Emmanuel Acho, in the building. Let's start with what's been an emotional week in sports. NBA players went on strike and missed 2 days of playoff games, which raises the question if something similar could happen in the NFL. Saquon Barkley said the thought of sitting out a game is, quote, something that we're going to talk about. NFL reporter Jim Trotter, and friend of Emmanuel Acho, tweeted today that a few prominent black players are telling him they want to sit out a game to force change and action. So, Acho, is this the right approach for NFL players like we are?
My guy, it is not. It is not, Marcellus. But remember what I said yesterday, and for those who missed it, I said that there's a saying in football, if you're all wrong, you're all right.
Yeah.
As long as you're all on the same page. Again, when I was playing the linebacker position, my defensive coordinators, he would relay the call into me. He would say, look, Acho, even if you make the wrong call, just make sure everybody makes it together in uniformity. You don't want a couple players, Marcellus, going rogue, so to speak.
Okay.
You don't want a couple players saying, you know what? Let me just make an executive decision to go on strike or to boycott, whatever you want to say, to sit out a game, because it won't have the mass impact. Marcellus, think about this. What is the most famous, so to speak, boycott amongst black people in American history? I would say the bus boycott, Montgomery
Civil
bus
rights.
boycott, Rosa Parks, right?
Yeah, got to.
1955, Rosa Parks refuses to give up her seat to a white man. That's December 1st. By December 5th, the Montgomery Improvement Association had formed. It was black people came together and said, you know what? We are not going to ride buses. We're going to come together and do that. But here's the thing, Marcellus. It wasn't like Rosa Parks said, okay, I'm not going to ride the bus. But MLK said, man, I still got to get somewhere, so I'm going to have to ride this bus. No, they collectively said, we're not going to do this together, to the point where the city, it raised the tax, it raised the minimum fare on taxis, Marcellus, so that black people now were forced to ride the buses. You know what they said? We are going to have a private taxi system. We're going to have drop-off points and pick-up points. Okay. So we're all going to be in this together. Well, within a year, Supreme Court ruled that it was against the 14th Amendment, and now it desegregated the bus systems because they were in it together. I don't like, Marcellus, athletes going rogue and saying, I'm just going to boycott myself, because what does that accomplish if you don't do it in uniformity?
I don't like it for several reasons. One, I don't like it because I don't know what the end result's going to be. I don't know directly what your intent is, being real. I think it feels like a little contagion that has come from the NBA as it spread through other sports leagues, and now it's going to impact the NFL. Look, I think a lot of people are out there protesting for just reasons. But I've always lived my life to be the reason why you're protesting, which is for the equality that you're fighting for. I'm going to fight in my own life, in my own vicinity, looking in that mirror for that same equality. And what do I mean by that? Like, everyone keeps talking about circumstances. Everyone keeps talking about what's happening in this world, and not enough what's happening in their world, and from their expertise, their experience. I thought it was highly interesting that Jim Trotter quoted the players saying that they're tired, frustrated, and emotional. Here we go again.
You don't like that word. Marcellus don't like that word, emotional.
I love that word, but it has its place, and you call certain plays when you're emotional. And there are other plays you better not call when you're emotional because you're not thinking it through. So now I look at the NBA, and it's so interesting that we saw an NBA where 99% of the NBA players were wearing Black Lives Matters t-shirt. Not all, but 99%. 90% of the players had messaging on their jerseys. Not all, in a fewer amount, but many. But only 20% of them voted. Only 20% of them are registered to vote. Doc Rivers called them out. It's amazing that these guys, and I'm not calling them frauds, I'm just saying that there's such an optical game to be won right now where it's not being supported by real measured actions.
That's good.
So I'm using the NBA for what it did. It wanted awareness. Your awareness is not one-sided. It's also, what are you doing? Now they're talking about creating a social justice coalition. But you already had Black Lives Matter on the court, T-shirts made, and equality and different messaging approved by the league on your jerseys. Reminds me of something that I see happening all the time, which is people just doing it for the gram, just doing it for the show. When Doc Rivers sat up there and said, only 20% of y'all register to vote, but all y'all want to sit here and walk out, make it make sense. So, Acho, I'm sitting here for anyone who's protesting and saying they're going to boycott, but in their real private life, the one greatest contribution we have to this political system to change our reality on a local, state, national level is that vote. Colin Kaepernick, 4 years ago, stood up, took a seat, and kneeled, all for this cause. He also didn't vote. It's just amazing to me that sometimes when you look at these guys from the outside, you say, yes, I would love to support you. But if you were to know them from the inside based on their actions, you don't know what to support.
Yeah, to your point, I love what you said about your experiences, your expertise. That's something I think is going to stick with me for a long time. I'm not going to knock a player for their personal convictions. You at home, not going to knock you for your personal convictions. If you have the conviction, Marcellus, to sit in or sit out of something based on your personal stance, you do that.
Yes.
So I'm not going to sit here and knock an individual player and say, look, if you have a strong conviction that says I cannot play this game and I don't want to participate in distracting from what's going on by giving you a game, okay, do that. Just understand that might not be accomplishing the greater good of what you're trying to accomplish. But to your point, athletes have to understand if they're going to walk this line, if they are going to try to lead the charge, lead the change, you have to make sure you cross all your T's and you dot all your I's, particularly as it pertains to the injustices. You can't sit here and simply this is what, I don't want to go there.
Yes, you do. This is
what
Speak for yourself.
Really perplexed me, frustrated me, and irked me over the last 2.5, 3 months is, Marcellus, during so many of the marches and so many of the rallies, I saw so many pictures on the gram. People marching in this, people marching in that, people decorating their signs. And I'm like, y'all taking all these pictures. Who's snapping the pictures? And why? And it's no disrespect because, you know, in 2020, and I'm a millennial, you know what they say, if you don't have a picture, it didn't happen. I get all that. But when I'm thinking about the people that so many people have professed they want to emulate, the MLKs of the world, the Malcolm X's of the world, whoever it is that you wanted to emulate, I don't know that they were asking for selfies. I don't know that they were crossing the bridges and the interstates like, hey, make sure you get this candid now. I don't think that's what it was. Now, I'm not going to knock it because, again, we do live in a social media age. But I'm just going to challenge. Make sure that it's not just talk. Make sure it's not just for show. Because there is a lot of that, right? But you said something yesterday. You don't do it for likes and follows. You do it for love and leaders. Something about that.
Yep.
Something stuck with me.
Yep.
Just make sure that we do live in an age where you have to do some stuff for the world to see, but make sure that your actions in private are also backing up your message in public.
Yeah, this social media, man, it creates an opportunity and platform for all. And for superstar athletes, these professional athletes, it allows their message to go across the world like that. And it brings complete awareness. But with that awareness comes a responsibility. I'm not mad that y'all out here talking it. But like I said, the Migos didn't make the right song. It should have been Talk It Like You Walk It. Let's bring in LeVar Arrington on this. LeVar, would sitting out a game and protest be the right approach for NFL players?
Listen, I do not think it's the right approach. And I hate to say it because I understand what it represents and what these guys are ultimately trying to get across is the frustration and the disappointment and the pain and the fear that is surrounding an entire country, not just a community, but a country. I tend to echo what your sentiments are in terms of what is the ultimate end? What is the ultimate goal? I started thinking about it from more of the perspective of if you're trying to be a leader in terms of using your influence and using your popularity and the platforms that assist you on those things in social media. I can understand you doing a campaign where you put the photos up and you put the videos up. I actually do understand it because, again, if you're trying to mass distribute a message then you know what? Maybe just maybe social media has become the proper way to try to get that message out to the masses. But then it leads me to the second part of this, and you touched on it, Marcellus. What is the plan? What concerned me was it's like, oh, we're having conversations about it, which says to me that you don't have a plan. You guys are basically sitting around and saying, should we play or should we not play? How should we handle it? You know, what's the right way? So they may not even collectively have the right response to this question. And that concerns me. Why? Because this is such a big moment. It's such a big topic that to go into it half cocked and half ready to go, half baked, not well thought out. You don't have a plan where you have touch points of methodically moving through what it is that the check mark, you know, the punch list points are. I think it's dangerous. And the reason why it's dangerous is because you have people who